Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right in the back? Excellent. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for this exciting and important announcement here on the lovely Halifax waterfront in Dartmouth. I'm Shannon Miedema, and I'm the Member of Parliament for Halifax and also a longtime climate advocate. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded land of the Mi'kmaq people. Today, we are joined by the Honourable Julie Dabrusin, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change Canada, Brittany Merrifield, the Mayor of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield, Sabine Dietz, the Executive Director of Climate Atlantic, and Braden Clark, the Member of Parliament for Sackville-Bedford-Preston. Prior to being elected as a Member of Parliament in this past election, I spent 15 years championing climate action for our city, most recently as the Director of Environment and Climate Change with the Halifax Regional Municipality. So I'm very aware of all the work that we need to do and all of the wonderful work that has been done by municipalities across Canada to combat climate change, and that work very much needs to continue, which is why today's announcement is so important. We really need to be supporting municipalities. Climate change is affecting people. People live in communities. They are on the ground. They are the first responders. They are the ones with the local context and a lot of great and creative ideas for solutions. And true climate action takes so much more than just responding to extreme weather events. It takes a proactive approach to build more resilient communities that are better equipped for whatever lies ahead. And here in the Halifax Regional Municipality, I'm proud to say that we have one of the most ambitious climate action plans in Canada called Halifax, standing for Acting on Climate Together. It's a plan that brought together support from various levels of government, private, and public sector organizations. Plans like these are ambitious and needed, but they can't happen without the support required. On a federal level, we have an incredible leader at the forefront of our environmental policies, Minister Julie Dabrusin. She's working across government to not just build Canada strong, but to build Canada well with a climate competitive economy. Her work includes modernizing the Canadian Environmental Protection Act, including the development of the ban on single-use plastics, and placing responsibility on the producers of waste to ensure that their items don't end up in the landfill. She's promoted the critical need for a transition from fossil fuels to a clean, green economy. As a local resident who relies on cycling, walking, and transit to get around her city, Julie is committed to federal support for public and active transit infrastructure, which is crucial to the development of our communities also here in the Halifax Regional Municipality. I'm honored to be able to work alongside Minister Dabrusin, and am pleased to introduce her to you all today as she joins us to make an important announcement. Over to you, Julie.
First of all, I want to thank you, Shannon, for that really warm introduction. And just to say, I think that when you hear about, Shannon's work in the field of climate action, it really shows you the importance of making sure that we have strong voices like hers who are able to inform us on how we can support municipalities in the fight against climate change. So really amazing to have you here and to have your advocacy as part of the work that I do. Alors, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here in beautiful Dartmouth, Nova Scotia's City of Lakes, joined by Mayor Brittany Merrifield and Climate Atlantic Executive Director and FCM Board Member Sabine Dietz. You just heard it, but it needs to be repeated because I don't think we can say it often enough, which is that climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's here. It's accelerating, and it's impacting communities across the country, including here in Nova Scotia. Climate change isn't a problem for tomorrow, it's a reality that we're living today. And every community in Atlantic Canada is on the front lines of its devastating consequences as they face intensifying extreme weather and wildfires. My job as a Minister of Environment and Climate Change is to fight climate change, protect communities, and to build a strong, sustainable economy for our future generations. And I'm committed to doing exactly that. Environment policy, it isn't just about ecosystems and emissions. In 2025, it's also very much about building a strong, environmentally and economically resilient country. and it's about building resilience in the face of escalating costs from climate change damage in our communities. In Canada, insured losses from severe weather events have exceeded $3 billion every year since 2022, with the 2024 record reaching over $9 billion. That's more than the annual budgets of some provinces, wiped out by a single year of climate-related impacts. These numbers, they're not just statistics because they represent homes, businesses, lives upended. And so we can talk about the dollar amounts, but this is also very much about protecting our communities. Storms, floods, wildfires like the ones that Nova Scotians have faced in the last week are hitting harder and more often. And the only way forward is to plan ahead, build smarter, stronger roads and bridges, reliable water systems, backup power, safe evacuation routes, and so much more. Canadians need infrastructure for the realities of today and the challenges of tomorrow: safe homes, affordable living, and thriving local economies. That's why I'm really pleased about the announcement that I'm making today. It's an announcement of the work that the Government of Canada is doing through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And the work that we're doing together, that we're announcing today, is investing in around $5.2 million in 70 municipalities. Of these 70 municipalities, 11 are right here in Nova Scotia. Today's investment under the Green Municipal Fund's Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation initiative is about building smarter, safer, stronger communities from coast to coast to coast. The Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation will help communities strengthen resilience by developing climate adaptation plans, creating climate-focused asset management strategies, and conducting community-wide climate risk assessments. It's a whole lot, but I'll also say it's about empowering local communities to protect their communities from what we're facing from climate change. Alors aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir d'annoncer que le gouvernement du Canada, par l'entremise de la Fédération canadienne des municipalités, investit environ 5,2 millions de dollars en 70 municipalités. Cet investissement dans l'initiative Leadership locale pour l'adaptation climatique du Fonds municipal vert servira à bâtir des collectivités plus ingénieuses, plus sûres et plus fortes, d'un océan à l'autre. Il aidera les collectivités à accroître leur résilience par l'élaboration de plans d'adaptation climatique et puis aussi, par la création de stratégies de gestion des actifs et par la réalisation des risques climatiques à l'échelle de la collectivité. C'est vraiment pour donner aux municipalités tout ce dont ils ont besoin pour protéger leur communauté. The Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation initiative is more than just funding. It's about skills, it's about tools and support for long-term proactive climate action. So every community has a fair shot at a resilient future. And municipalities, like you just heard from the work that Shannon was describing, municipalities are on the front lines of this work. And we are here together to ensure that they have the resources they need. In Canada, our climate has changed, and we continue to fight for our environment. We will also invest in protecting our communities. Building climate resilience isn't just the right thing to do, it's the economically smart, fiscally responsible, and safest choice for Canadians. So let's keep working together to reduce risk, to protect lives, and make our communities healthier and stronger for generations to come. And with that, I want to thank you, and I'm going to be passing it over to Mayor Brittany Merrifield from Grand Bay-Westfield, board member of FCM, but also somebody who was talking about the importance of this kind of work for smaller rural communities, which can sometimes be overlooked when we talk about larger projects. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about what she has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Brittany Merrifield, and I'm the mayor of the town of Grand Bay-Westfield in New Brunswick. I'm here today representing the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or FCM, as a member of its board of directors. Canadians across the country are feeling the growing impacts of climate change, from devastating wildfires to severe droughts and flooding. Here in Atlantic Canada, wildfires have burned over 10,000 hectares this summer alone, and we're bracing for another active hurricane season. In my own community, we too have felt the direct impacts of climate change with once-in-a-century floods in 2018 and 2019. As local leaders, we have a responsibility to protect our residents in the face of this changing climate. And this means making smart infrastructure investments today so that our communities can weather the storms of tomorrow. Municipalities build and maintain 60% of the critical infrastructure that Canadians rely on every day. Adapting that infrastructure for an uncertain future can be a daunting task. And that's why I'm proud to join the Honourable Julie Dabrusin today to announce a $5.2 million investment through FCM's Green Municipal Fund. Together, we will support 70 communities with their climate adaptation planning so that they can better assess climate risk and build long-term resilience. Through our Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation initiative, this funding will empower local governments with vital funding and skills development to develop and implement climate adaptation initiatives. Today's announcement is just one piece of a $530 million effort to support climate adaptation across the country as a part of Canada's National Adaptation Strategy. By 2031, the LLCA initiative will help 1,400 communities across the country adapt to climate change and embed that needed resilience in their community plans. As president of the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick, I speak from experience about the impact of this initiative. Our organization is also undertaking a project through LLCA, which will greatly influence how municipalities in New Brunswick approach climate adaptation planning, particularly in collaboration with Indigenous peoples in our province. Not only is climate adaptation a proven way to keep Canadians safe, it's also highly cost-effective. The Canadian Climate Institute estimates that every dollar spent on adaptation measures will save $13 to $15 down the road. So these are smart, sustainable, and fiscally responsible investments that demonstrate leadership in our communities today and create real and lasting impacts for the future. We're already seeing this leadership in action in Atlantic Canada today, with 43 projects together receiving $2.8 million during this announcement today, including 11 right here in Nova Scotia. One example that is very proud to highlight is the town of Kentville, where funding will support the creation of a climate risk database, public engagement workshops, and a climate adaptation plan grounded in reconciliation, anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. So we thank the federal government for championing this important work and for recognizing the essential role that municipalities play in meeting the climate challenge. We really are where the rubber hits the road. Together, we're building a more resilient, more sustainable Canada, one community at a time. So thank you, and I'll now turn it over to Sabine Dees. Sabine?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me for this announcement this morning, Minister. As it is abundantly clear, the impacts from climate change are really severe, and we feel them particularly, I think, in Atlantic Canada. Our organization, Climate Atlantic, works across Atlantic Canada to ensure that Atlantic Canadians, institutions, and agencies have the information about future climate risks so they can make informed decisions about infrastructure, investments, and communities. Information generated by our national climate services provider, the Canadian Centre for Climate Services, ensures that we can provide a free service supported by all 4 Atlantic provinces and the federal government. And we do this work with over 50 partners, collaborators, and a team of 25. Our own growth over the last 25 years has shown the increase in demand for this kind of service. Managing the risk from climate change requires investments at all levels to support Atlantic Canada in becoming climate resilient. We know that every dollar spent towards resiliency and de-risking our communities and economies will see savings of between $13 and $15 in avoided future costs. Funding provided by the federal government through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for the Green Municipal Fund Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation Initiative directly contributes to this work. There are many on-the-ground projects, as has been mentioned, across Atlantic Canada who are being supported by the FCM, and Climate Atlantic also received funding through this program. Working across Atlantic Canada, we are providing tailored support services, especially to help, especially training for smaller communities to help them incorporate climate change into decision making. We're filling gaps because all provincial governments and many local and regional organizations, such as the Clean Foundation in Nova Scotia, are already working hard in every province to support communities who are at the forefront of the impacts of climate change. I want to thank the federal government for taking climate change impact seriously, for being a leader in building and supporting climate services organizations such as the Canadian Centre for Climate Services and ourselves, and for supporting programs and actions that will de-risk investments in our communities and economies and keep us safe and thus increase our competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabine. The work that's being done by the team at Climate Atlantic is so important. Nova Scotia is an absolutely stunning and beautiful province, full of natural wonders and surrounded by coastlines on nearly every side. And while this gives us the opportunity to explore Canada's ocean playground, it also leaves us, obviously, as we've discussed, very susceptible to climate disasters and extreme weather events. And as has been mentioned, in recent years, we've faced increasing severity and frequency of these events. In 2023, we had the flash flood, the wildfire in Tantallon, and a hurricane. So we need to work hard to prepare for future risks while urgently addressing also the root of the problem of climate change. This work requires all levels of government to work together. So I'm pleased to see this partnership from our federal government and 11 municipalities throughout our province here in Nova Scotia. When we work together, we get results. With coastal protection now in the hands of municipal governments, I hope to see some of this funding used to ensure that our coastlines across the province are protected. The Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation Initiative, as mentioned by Minister Dabrusin, will provide funding to community, but it will also provide, as was mentioned by Sabine, information, support, and crucial skill sets to navigate our climate future. I actually had the privilege of being on the advisory table for LLCA for large municipalities for over a year while I was the director at Halifax. And I was completely impressed with the caliber and professionalism of the team at FCM and all of the deep consultation and engagement that they did with large municipalities, small Indigenous communities, economists, et cetera. They really created a very sound and robust funding program. My time with the HRM made it clear that municipalities are, of course, at the forefront of climate action, and I'm pleased to see our government recognize this and continue to provide this much-needed support. And it's very much appreciated by communities, I know. So thank you so much, Minister Dabrusin, Mayor Merrifield, and Sabine Dietz for your words today, and to everyone in attendance for coming. We will now pass it over for questions from the media. I think Malachy will be doing that, so thank you so much.
Check. Cool. Hello, my name is Malachy Schwartz. I'm with Minister Dabrusin, and I'll be moderating today's media availability. In the interest of time, please keep it to one question and one follow-up, and please state your name and your media outlet before posing your question. I have the mic right here if any journalists want to come and ask the question into the mic here.
Bonjour, Kira Morellon avec Radio-Canada. Ma question, c'est pour la ministre. Comment est-ce que vous avez choisi les municipalités qui vont avoir ce financement?
Alors, ce programme, c'est avec FCM, et je m'excuse parce que je n'ai pas le mot en français mais c'est le fonds, je pense, pour communautés vertes. Et c'est vraiment avec eux que les communautés sont choisies. Alors, ça, c'est pourquoi nous avons 70 municipalités partout au pays, mais avec 11 ici en Nouvelle-Écosse.
Ma prochaine question serait pour Sabine, s'il vous plaît. Comme on le sait, il y a un ouragan qui longe la Nouvelle-Écosse en ce moment. Je sais que vous avez beaucoup parlé des effets des ouragans qui s'intensifient dans la région. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire d'avoir un financement comme ça pour que les municipalités soient prêtes alors qu'on évite de justesse un ouragan?
C'est une bonne question. La réponse est que avec le financement qui vient du FCM, de la Fédération, ça veut dire les municipalités peuvent se préparer. Alors, ils vont être capables de comprendre les données sur les risques, Puis ensuite, ils peuvent se préparer, disons, avec des changements dans leur infrastructure pour que certains des impacts des ouragans, comme les tempêtes, les vagues, les ondes de tempête, pour qu'ils peuvent mieux gérer ces impacts-là. C'est vraiment ça. Alors, le financement est critique pour ça, pour que les municipalités peuvent se préparer, peuvent être prêtes.
Hello, my name is Molly McNaughton, and I'm asking questions on behalf of CBC Ottawa, and it's for Minister Dabrusin. So my first question, how do you plan on meeting your emissions reduction targets for 2030 and 2035?
So, as you know, Canada is committed to getting to net zero by 2050, and much of that work happens through working through the regulations that we have. For example, the industrial carbon price does an important part of reducing our emissions, as does making sure that we have clean electricity across our country. Canada has one of the cleanest grids in the world. We should be really, really proud about that. As we grow as a country, as we grow our industry and require more electricity, as we move to electrification, we need to make sure that that's done in the right way and that if we have clean electricity. It also helps to attract foreign investment in our country. Just yesterday, I was even talking with people who were saying that they had been talking with people who were looking for the opportunities in Canada. And one of the things that they were saying is that they were attracted to our country because we have such a clean grid. So as we highlight the work that we're doing to get to net zero, I also really want to highlight the fact that it's an economic opportunity that is driving innovation here, but also driving people to look to our country as a place for investment.
Thank you. And my next question, will you provide an update on your emissions reduction plan?
We will absolutely be providing an update. That's part of our regular updates that we provide to Parliament, to our country. So, but it also gives me a moment to highlight something really important, I think, which is that when I was first elected 10 years ago, so, under the previous Conservative government, our emissions were going up and there was no path to coming down. They were going up. And we have actually put ourselves on track where our emissions are bending down, even as our economy grows, even as our population has grown. So we are at a point now where the technical word they use is decoupling. But we are at an exciting moment in our country where we've actually seen emissions coming down at that very moment that our economy is growing. And that is something that I am absolutely committed to making sure we continue to do, because it's about not only when we talk about the economics, it's about a strong economy, but when we talk about how we're going to build Canada for the future, we need to build it as a resilient future that really respects being done well. So that's my commitment to continue doing it, and you will be getting an update.
Hi, I'm Angela Capobianco. I'm with Global News Halifax, and I believe this question is also for the minister. With concerns of climate change, especially in the Atlantic region, with wildfires, hurricanes increasing every year, I guess I'm wondering if you can elaborate a bit about how these types of projects or funding can really help mitigate climate change impacts that we're seeing.
And thank you for that question. And when I was looking through some of the types of things that have been done in the past, some of it will be in the form of backup generators. Some of it will be in the form of stormwater management. Some of it will be in the form of building dikes. It's going to change by community, right? What the community needs will be different. And that's what I think is so amazing about this fund and about the way this program works, is that it really respects community leadership in deciding what is the right thing that their community needs. Because as we speak of all 70 communities coast to coast to coast, what they're going to need to fight these types of events and to protect their communities is going to be different. But that gives you kind of a flavor for the types of examples of what they may choose to do.
Yeah, and just one follow-up. So I guess from your answer, it sounds like a lot of this, I guess, is it more related to, I guess, coastal water sea level rising, or is there also efforts being made for wildfire prevention and the like?
Because the communities are in different locations right across the country, so they're not all coastal communities. Here in Nova Scotia, you will have many coastal communities, but across the country, there will be different adaptation risks. This is to empower local communities to protect their communities from these natural disasters. We've talked a lot about the economic impact, and I think that that's important, about avoiding the increased costs of these losses, but it's also about the people in these communities. And we can't lose that sight when we're talking about the dollars. It's also about people's lives who get upended when they are facing into these natural disasters. As I said, if a community in the middle of Saskatchewan is probably facing a very different form of what a natural disaster from climate change looks like from a coastal community here in Nova Scotia. So it's really respecting the local knowledge and advice as to what they need to do. Oh. Alors, les projets que nous avons sont différents tout partout au pays. C'est parce qu'on va respecter que les communautés connaissent mieux ce qu'ils ont besoin de faire pour se protéger. C'est pas seulement question d'économie. On parle beaucoup de comment ça coûte beaucoup quand nous avons ces désastres naturels qui sont causés par le changement climatique. Mais c'est aussi qu'il y en a des gens, à chaque fois, on parle de gens dans les communautés qui vont voir les impacts, qui vont perdre leur maison, qui vont avoir leur travail qui va être, qui ne peuvent pas travailler pendant une période de désastre naturel. Comment ça fonctionne dans les communautés va être très différent. Si on est en Saskatchewan, au centre de Saskatchewan, qu'est-ce qu'ils vont voir comme désastre naturel causé par le changement climatique va être très différent d'une communauté ici, près de l'océan, ici en Nouvelle-Écosse. Alors, ça va être différent et qu'est-ce que ces fonds vont faire, et ce que moi j'aime bien avec ces fonds, c'est qu'on va respecter que les communautés, ils savent mieux de quoi ils en ont besoin, et cela leur donne ce qu'ils ont besoin pour se protéger eux-mêmes.
Any last questions? Oh. Just one more.
Okay.
My question is more on the municipal level, because I know we have a mayor and someone that has worked in Halifax. I'm just wondering, if you have an example of what this will actually mean. Like, obviously different depending on the municipality and where we're at, but what could that actually change compared to what you're able to do now?
That's a great question, and I could give an actual example, not from this specific fund because it's new fund, but what an adaptation project here locally looks like that the municipality here in Halifax has been working on, and it's on Shore Road, just further down the harbor here, and they used some funding from, at the time, Infrastructure Canada. They have a natural infrastructure funding program that was very new, where it was incentivizing communities to look at natural solutions to climate impacts. And so Shore Road is eroding very quickly because of impacts, and so they are trying to simulate like a cobblestone beach and trying to do some public amenities and do it in a really natural way with these funds that are matched by the city to try and safeguard the road that the cars are using, also enhance kind of the shoreline and the coastline, and that work's been underway for a couple of years and isn't done yet. So that's one example just close by. Thanks. I'll pass it over to the mayor.
Thanks. So I guess one of the really important things about the LLCA is its commitment to developing capacity in smaller and more rural communities. A lot of our communities in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and across the country maybe have a couple of employees, and they don't even know where to begin when it comes to how do we plan for climate adaptation, how do we protect our residents and our critical infrastructure from a climate emergency. And so one of the things that's really important is helping develop this capacity so that staff and councils can say, okay, so these are our risks. Okay, so now how do we mitigate this risk? What are the things that need to be done, and then how do we pay for them? So this is part of that critical planning process that will help protect Canadians. Thanks.
That will be the conclusion of our press conference. Thank you very much, and we'll be just taking a quick group photo.